Good morning, kings and queens. This is Carmen, and today is February 1st, so happy February, happy Black History Month. Today, I would like to share with you that, this is my morning, having my morning cup of tea. Hibiscus tea is my favorite, in case you didn't know. Before I start my yoga practice, and it's the beginning of the month, it's the day after our full moon, which was a great time for me to think about manifesting my dreams, the things that I want going into my new year, my new birthday, which is tomorrow, February 2nd. So I have Egyptian tarot cards that I like to pull. I like to pull three cards for the past, the present, and the future. So today I'm going to share that with you because guess what? It's my birthday week and I can. So I'm going to take the deck out, and I like to tap on it 3 times, say a little prayer to cleanse the energy, and then I shuffle them up. Shuffle them up any way you want. Okay. So this set of Egyptian tarot cards came with, it's the Book of Doors divination deck by Anthony Veggie. Has some great descriptions inside, and it's just really informative. One of my favorites. So let's see what we have. So the first card that I pulled was Ra Asar. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about this card. Second card I pulled is Akut Imhotep. And the third card I pulled was Duat Amenta. Okay, so I am now going to tell you what this means. Okay, make sure I set them up in the right order. So that's that was Ra, Asar, Akut Imhotep, and Duat Amenta. Hope everyone's having a great day. I'm really excited that it's February. I have so many shows. I have so much great things happening. I really feel blessed. So I wanted to take some time to, share my meditations with you, because I do that as well. Try to fit everything in. Ra Asar. He who is seen. So, combined in the hieroglyph of 4 Asar or Cyrus are the throne of Aset and the Eye. Here, the cosmic power is brought down to earth and into human form. As a human, Aset faces both the inevitable of death and the possibility of resurrection. Throughout the dynasties and from the very earliest time, the cult of Asar played a very important part in the Egyptian pantheon. Occult tradition asserts that he and Aset came to Earth bringing with them the knowledge of all the sciences, and spawned a race of divine beings to ensure the continuity of this stellar knowledge. As Aset symbolized the star Sirius, so the soul of Asar dwelt in Orion, and through their union the mystery of life was conceived. Through the dynasties, Asar assumed many forms, but his most important role in the Egyptian religion was as a neter of the dead. The occult knowledge and mysteries imparted to the pharaohs and priesthood was based on Ra, and the power coming from Sirius. But the whole Egyptian popular religion was based on Asar, with the promise to his worshippers that they too could gain immortality after death. Asar is the god of generative power, but not the god of the royal power. The occult way to enlightenment that is through Ra, the sun, beyond the sun. Instead, the way of Asar is the journey through death, resurrection, and reincarnation. As the awesome god of the dead, Asar appears as a mummy, representing the spirit enclosed in matter and bound in human form. But the fine weaving of the linen embalming clothes, including Neth, who weaves together the threads interconnecting all principles, all existence. Asar is wrapped in the transcendental knowledge by which means the body is transmuted and the integrity of consciousness is preserved, even through the death of the physical form. He holds two scepters, you see that in the picture, to signify the two alchemical phases of sublimation and fermentation. The Nekha scepter symbolizes spiritual power and sublimation. The Hek scepter, in the shape of a crook, right there, symbolizes the alchemical ferment, and the way they are held in the hands of Asar has a very precise meaning. And this card, his hands holding the scepters are opposing fists, signifying judgment. See that there? When his hands are crossed at the wrist, they indicate death. And when the scepters and hands are both crossed, they indicate resurrection. Asar wears the Atef crown, there. And on either side of his throne are hung the skins of the pied bulls. There. Sacrificed during the funeral ceremony. Their heads have been cut off and blood drips into the sacrificial bowls. There and there. As the principle evolved in the renewal of life, Asar is said to be born with the moon every month as offerings were made at his monthly festivals throughout Egypt. The first card that I pulled represents renewal of life after our full blue moon, which was yesterday. Some texts say he died at the age of 28, which relates directly to the cycle of Saturn and the return of Saturn to its position at birth, as well as the moon. Saturn is intimately associated with the cycle of death and transformation, and Asar, as god of the dead, represented that which has passed and gone. But his power of regeneration is expressed in his child Heru, who is the new king. Thus Asar is the continuity of the power of the pharaoh. In the Egyptian genealogy, Asar, Aset, Neptet, Heru, and Seth are all born from Nut, one of the 8 primordials. On the first of the 5 intercalary days, said to be unlucky by the Egyptian, Asar was born and he was proclaimed Lord of Creation. As king of Egypt, he is shown wearing the white crown of the south. There it is. The earliest center of his cult, although it spread to include all of Egypt. He established temples for the gods and a code of laws for the people to follow, and his rule was a time of peace for the land. When he set out to teach the other nations of the world, Aset ruled in his absence. But when he turned, he fell prey to the evil intentions of his brother Seth. At a great banquet, Seth tricked him into lying in a chest, made exactly to his measurements, which was then sealed and cast into the Nile. The chest was carried by the sea to Byblos, where it lodged in the branches of a huge tamarisk tree. The tree grew to enclose the chest and was eventually cut down by the king of that country, who, admiring its great size, had it made into a pillar to support his palace. The tree trunk is referred to as the hieroglyph Tet, that's spelled T-E-T, a name by which Asar is often called, indicating the column of the spine and having the meaning of stability. Through his divinatory powers, the grieving of Aset discovered where the chest was concealed in disguising herself. She went to the palace and became a nurse for one of the king's sons. Instead of nursing the child normally, however, Aset gave him her finger to suck, and every night she put him into a fire to bestow immortality. One night the queen discovered her son in the flames and was horrified, causing Aset to reveal her true identity. She begged for the pillar in which her husband was imprisoned, and her request granted. She cut open the pillar and took the chest back to Egypt, where she hid it. But Seth came upon the chest one moonlit night, and recognizing it, he pulled out Asar's body, tore it into 14 parts, and scattered the pieces over Egypt. Aset returned to find the body gone, and she began searching once again, eventually finding each of his scattered limbs, every part except his phallus. She established a shrine in each place for Asar, with the shrine of his head said to be located at Abydos, almost in the exact center of Egypt, and this became the main center for the cult of Asar. Although Aset failed to find his phallus, she united his body through the power of her magic, and the child Haru was conceived. Thus Asar was reborn, and in some papyri, the magical semen is symbolized by the seed emerging from the base of his throne and blooming into a lotus flower that supports the full son of Haru. Before his death at the hands of Seth, Asar was deceived by Neptet into sleeping with her instead of her sister. Seth discovered the affair between Asar and Neptet by a garland of flowers that fell from Asar. In other words, he lost the principle of growth and blossoming through her touch. Through associating himself with the principle of putrefaction, he became a god of death, of the reflection world of the Duat. We have the occasion here to refer to the principle of inversion, to which Pythagoras gave great importance, a principle that is one of the foundations of all symbolism, be it alchemical, Kabbalistic, Taoist, or Hermetic, as above, so below. Inversion is an inborn property of the golden number, phi. It is the only number that multiplies itself with the addition of 1, and the only number, again, that is inverted by subtracting 1. This number phi relates both to the Duat, where Asar is the inverted being, and the earth, where magically revived by Aset, he symbolizes the power of vegetative growth, which expresses the golden proportion, the sacred ratio, P. Another form of Asar is that of a water god, the annual renewal of vegetation through the fertilizing flood of the Nile. But his most important function was in the Duat, and in the Book of the Dead he is described as a judge of the deceased and as a black netter. After the judgment of the dead, it was Asar who decided where the soul was to be sent according to its actions on earth. Those condemned in the judgment hall were sent to be eaten by Ammit, the devourer. But those souls who emerged victorious could enjoy an ecstatic union with their beloved Asar. Plutarch gives Asar a tanned complexion, but with fair hair. Death. So the definitory meaning of this card is death for resurrection, the necessity, the need to let go of attachments. And this card is about mystical revelation. So, death for resurrection, the necessity to let go of attachments, and having mystical revelation. That's card 1. Card 2. Akut Imhotep. Imhotep, he who comes in peace. So take a look at the card. He who comes in peace. Imhotep was the god of healing and medicine, the great healer who watched over all who practiced the mingled sciences of medicine and magic. Worshipped primarily at Memphis, Imhotep was called the son of Ptah and expressed the creative nature of his father through his healing powers. According to legend, Imhotep actually lived in Egypt and was advisor-in-chief architect to the pharaoh Zoser of the Third Dynasty. He was also a skilled physician, so famous and highly regarded that he became deified some 2,000 years after his death. As a netter of medicine, Imhotep was invoked for the healing of disease and injury. His work involved both the living and the dead, for he also attended to the embalming of bodies using spices and drugs and the magical incantations that ensured the soul's protection. As a great sage and man of knowledge, Imhotep absorbed some of the attributes of Tahuti, reflected in this image where he is shown seated with a papyrus scroll on his lap, there, and the caduceus in his right hand, there. In the duat, he uttered the words to protect the dead. He was the wise one, the one who comes unto him, who calls upon him, whosoever he may be. The caduceus shows his power of directing energy for healing. Healing, balance, and harmony. So the caduceus shows his power of directing energy for healing, balance, and harmony. It was Imhotep who was called upon when the Nile failed to flood and spread its life-giving waters across the delta. And it was Imhotep who saved Egypt from starvation after 7 years of terrible drought. In his role of architect, Imhotep was known as the master of works. But it is as a healing netter that he was most highly revered. Later to be identified as the god Aesculapius, who brought the art of healing to the Greeks. So the divinatory meaning of this card is the power of healing, the healer. So far we have the past, death, resurrection, letting go of attachments, mystical revelation. This card, we have the power of healing, Imhotep, the healer. So once you've let go of attachments, once I've let go of attachments, and have had revelations, in the present, I seek healing. So once you let go of something, you're healing. You're healing yourself. You're healing. So the power of healing is the present. Third card, Duat, Aminta. I'll try to hold it up so you can see it. Okay, so Dua, Aminta, the hidden place. Mensa, the hidden place. The underworld of the Egyptians was called either the Duat or Amenta. Contrary to what one might think, this region where the dead sun god traveled after setting in the west was not thought to be literally under the earth, but rather away, beyond the earth, a land between the earth and the heavens. It is described as a great valley with mountains on either side that form a barrier to the earth and the heavens. Through this valley flows a river, a reflection of both the earthly Nile and the celestial Nile. So in this picture you can see the Nile, the river flowing. On either side of this river live monstrous forms and spirits hostile to whoever come into their territory. The Book of the Dead is a description of going into Amenta, a region of thick darkness and a place of horror for those who lost their way. So it was considered vital for the followers of Ra and Asar to become familiar with the realm of the dead while still living. And to this end, this collection of writings, otherwise known as the Book of Coming Forth by Day, was compiled. In later dynasties, this became two books. One was called the Book of That Which is in the Duat, in which Ra was supreme, the other called the Book of the Pylons, where the greatest god was Asar. Both of these books divide the Duat into 12 divisions, each relating an hour of the night when the dead sun god is in Duat, and along with the description of each division there are given the names of power the deceased must know to pass safely through. These names include the names of the serpents who guarded each pylon or doorway, the names of the particular guardians in groups of Neteru, and the Neteru of the hours who must be called before entry to the next division was granted. Once in the boat of Ra, the Sakar boat, the human became associated with the dead sun god and experienced both the dead and the regeneration of the sun itself. After death, the body was transformed into a mummy, which is the symbol of Asar. Through the hall of judgment, the gross body was refined, and in the passage through Amenta, the purification of the self was thorough and ruthless. Finally, the black sun of midnight gave way to the eastern horizon of Amenta. The mummy was revivified, and the spirit rose with the newly born sun and transformed into Kepra. In symbolic terms, the journey through Amenta is a magical trip that relates not only to the physical death of the body, but also to the occult process of transformation, where the self dies to the earthly world and is reborn, conscious of its spiritual reality. In the microcosm, Amenta symbolizes the unconscious or deep mind, where the infinite potential of being is concealed. This is the hidden light which, ascending from darkness of the Duat, is exalted as the creative spirit freed from the bondage of illusion. Robert Temple refers to the connection between the disappearance of Sirius from the night skies in the northern hemisphere and the passage through Amenta. For 70 days, Sirius is invisible at night and is believed to appear again after this period spent in the Duat. He also notes the ritual of embalming as taking 70 days in imitation of this journey of Sirius. So, the divinatory meaning of this card, the Amenta card, is going into darkness. The Quran has only to the self to rely on, and adventure into the unknown. So, this card is about going into darkness, the Quran only having self to rely on, and an adventure into the unknown. So this is the future, an adventure into the unknown. So, that's the future, the present, and the past. I think I got that right. So, we have death, resurrection, letting go of attachments, Imhotep, healing in the present, and the adventure into the unknown, coming out of darkness, is the future, past, present, future. So, these are my Egyptian tarot cards from the Book of Doors deck. So if you're interested and you want information, I'll post this in the video description. Usually in my classes, I also have scrolls that I write, and I type them up and then I roll them up into little scrolls for inspiration. So let's see which one I pull out of the bag. So our inspiration for today that I would like to share with you, the scroll says, your soul is your highest self. So that's what it says. Your soul is your highest self. Your soul is your highest self. Okay? So, thank you for watching. I hope that this brings you inspiration. And I hope that you have a blessed day. Uncle Jasaneb, life, prosperity, and good health to you. I hope to share more with you soon as I begin my comedic yoga classes in March. So stay tuned. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can email me at crownsoulyoga@gmail.com. And you can also follow my page, Crown Soul Yoga, on Facebook. And thank you so much. Have a great day.